have screen sharing enabled so I'm able to share screen when we go over one of the items?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, cool.
I think you have to
Nicole,
check
I
it
got
off.
the background, but I cannot change it right now. So
Okay.
keep up with my Hawaiian thing, man.
It looks
We
warm
need
there.
that background. We need that background, sir, without a doubt.
It looks
We need
warm
that.
there.
You're
Yeah.
invited, man.
I'm going to change to the background.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we are live now. So you are welcome to
I'll
start.
tell you what, with that type of background, I wouldn't care if there was COVID, man. Walking along that beach and enjoying that breeze.
And crack a couple coconuts.
There you go. And I'll share the balut, Filipino balutes.
There you go.
You are ready to start, Mr. Chair, whenever you'd like.
Thank you so much, Ms. Wheelwright. Good afternoon, or actually good evening to everybody. I am showing it is 4:01. I will call this meeting to order at that time, 4:01. With that, Ms. Wheelwright, would you please call the roll? Thank you.
Councilmember Santos?
Here.
Councilmember Fenn?
Yes, here.
City Manager Todd Parton? I don't think he's on this call. I think he's on another call at the moment. Economic Development Manager Kyle Warzinski?
I'm here.
Member Monir Ahmed? I don't see him on here yet. Member Richard Beneke?
Here.
Member Eben Brown? I don't see him on here. Member David Getka?
Here.
Member Alan Coblin?
Here.
Chairman Vaughn Lawson?
Present.
Member Rob Moran?
Here.
Member Betty Rader?
Here.
Member Carl Vince?
Here.
And student Angelina Segovia. I don't see her. Alternate member Kashandra Samuel? I don't show here. And alternate member Trina Fregoso.
Hello, I'm here.
Thank
There
you
you
so
are,
much,
Chair.
Ms. Wheelwright. Let me say welcome to everyone again. It is so wonderful to see your smiling and healthy faces. Sending out our prayers and thoughts to your families for continued health and safety. We will get started here and ask if there's any action of any request for excused absence. Ms. Wheelwright?
I have none.
Thank you, ma'am. At this time, I am going to ask if I could, Mr. Finn, to honor us in leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Sure, I'd be glad to.
Thank you, sir.
Ready to begin. I pledge allegiance,
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of
America,
America.
and to the
republic
for which it
stands
one nation,
one nation,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
justice for all.
Thank you, Member Finn.
Sure.
With that, we'll ask that everyone would review the agenda, and we'll ask for approval of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Don't move. Second.
It has been moved and properly second. Ms. Wheelwright, if you will call the roll for adoption of the agenda.
Okay. Member Vince?
Yes.
Member Rader?
Yes.
Member Moran?
Yes.
Chairman Lawson?
Yes.
Member Coblin?
Yes.
Member Getka?
Yes.
Member Beneke?
Yes.
Economic Development Manager Warzinski?
Yes.
Councilmember Fenn?
Yes.
Councilmember Santos?
Aye.
Thank you, ma'am. At this time, we'll ask if are there any conflict of interest disclosures to come before this body. All right, hearing none, we will move on to the item public comment period. Do we have anyone in our public comments area? I see it's on mute that is to come before this body.
I have no written comments at this time. Heather, do we have anyone on the line?
No, no colors.
All right, thank you so much. Moving on, We'll move on to action items, public hearings, and requests. We'll ask if everyone would review their minutes. We hope that you had a copy. And at this time, we will ask for a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Thank you so much. Ms. Wheelwright, would you please call the roll for approval of the minutes?
Member Vince,
Yes.
Member Rader,
Yes.
Member Moran, Member Moran.
Yes.
Okay. Chairman Lawson,
Yes.
Member Copeland, Member Copeland. Oh, I see his mouth
Sorry.
moving.
Yes.
Thank you. Member Gecka,
Yes.
Member Beneke,
Yes.
Economic Development Manager Warzinski,
Yes.
Councilmember Fenn,
Yes.
Councilmember Santos.
Aye.
Thank you very much. At this time, we're going to defer to Mr. Warsinski for an update of projects from city staff.
Thank you, Chairman Lawson. So before you all tonight, I'm going to go pretty quickly through the major projects that are going on in the city and reserve most of the time tonight to discuss the EDSP as well as the roles and responsibilities of the committee. So the next two items on the agenda. For major projects that are occurring, it's very similar to the ones that we discussed at the last meeting. So some infrastructure design going on. We do have a couple of those businesses within San Bruno Village that are nearing completion, which would be Planet Fitness as well as Ulta Beauty. I can't give you a heads up on when they're actually going to be opening because they have not passed their final inspections and received their certificate of occupancy at this point in time. And it's somewhat on each of the businesses to go through the inspection processes, pass those, and then get their approval to open. As we move forward and we know more about that, I'll be able to provide the information at a subsequent meeting. Hopefully at the next meeting in March, we'll have one or two of those businesses open, which pretty much comprises almost all of the businesses that are contained within that shopping center. We received our sales tax update yesterday for third quarter of 2020, and the numbers looked pretty good. We're going to be presenting those to City Council, but the Reader's Digest version is the city was up pretty good, but a lot of it was one-time payments that fell in the quarter, respective of Amazon's robotics and some of the material handling equipment that was installed within that facility, as well as the CJ Foods facility. So those are one-time use taxes. Definitely don't discount them because they're important to us because those are revenues that come into the city. Not necessarily something that we project long-term as they are one-times, but I was talking to the city manager, and if we had a year in which we needed one-time payments more than any other, it would probably be this year due to the declining revenues of other different businesses. So it's kind of nice that those hit during a pandemic year. We also saw certain industry clusters that were up, like building and materials. A lot of the quick service restaurants kind of held their own. And as you can imagine, there are certain industry groups that were on the decline as a result of the pandemic, as well as the stay-at-home order and the county tiered system on which businesses are allowed to operate or not. So we're looking at those numbers closely. What I can say is that, at least from my perspective, I don't want to speak for the finance director or the city manager, the numbers are a little bit better than I think we would have thought they were going to be. So it does seem like people are out there patronizing the businesses within the city. And Icon Health and Fitness out there off of 4th Street has done a phenomenal job on getting people in the state of California fitness equipment. That's what they sell at that facility. And if you ever needed a pandemic-proof business, I guess in this scenario, it would be fitness equipment, as many of the gyms across the state have closed. And Icon sells Gold's Gym, Proform, and Nordic Track ellipticals and treadmills. So they've done pretty good in this time. I think they've explained this is probably their highest volume in terms of sales ever. Although that won't continue long term, it's definitely encouraging that we know that business is doing well. Their employees are doing well, and I think that concludes my summary of the sales tax. We'll probably end up presenting some of that information to City Council at a future meeting. In terms of other developments, there's a lot that are kind of in the queue that we're working on that haven't been submitted. And the last project I really want to touch on, in which a couple of the people in the committee were in attendance on, was the Retail Coach Small Business Retail Analytics webinar that we had done in January. And if you were unable to attend that live, you can easily find it on the cityofbeaumont.gov's YouTube channel. And it has the entire presentation in which myself, as well as Austin Farmer from the Retail Coach, go into detail on our first findings of the retail market analysis that City Council has allowed us to move forward with. We talk about the demographics within the city, as well as we've created a trade area. And when we started on this endeavor, it's hard to say where our trade area was going to be, right? Are we just going to include Banning and Beaumont and Calamasa? Or are there people nearby that contribute to the market and in this trade area? And what we did was we were able to utilize that cell phone data in terms of where people are moving and really find a trade area that I feel truly represents the San Gorgonio Pass area and a little bit further out of that. And the way we did it was we tracked how many people from different areas visited the city of Beaumont. I think it was 3 or 4 or 5 times a year to those different retail areas within the city. So it wasn't people that were coming in, visiting the city, going to their brother's house or grandma's house. It was people that were coming into the city, going to one of our retail areas. So we know that if they're coming here 5 times a year, chances are if we bring in new developments, they probably end up coming here similar times, if not even more. So great information in terms of our attraction efforts, but what we wanted to do and what City Council had spelled forth in terms of a goal was to use this data and analytics to assist the local businesses that exist here today. So you'll see in that presentation, if you have a chance to take a look at it, a couple examples of how we were able to use that cell phone data and demographic information on a couple case example businesses. And we ran through how a business can contact the city, specifically me, and get these services for free or at zero cost to them as long as they're a Beaumont business and they're a small business in the city. What it does is we create a geofence area, so a hypothetical polygon around their property, and we're able to track cell phone data on who comes into that polygon, how long they stay there. It's also fun because you can actually see where they came from. Did they come from another business? Did they come from home? Did they come from work? What time of day did they come? What days are they coming? So as just those quick examples, you could see from a business's perspective, if you're able to know what business a majority of your patrons are coming from right before they come to your store, you might want to start partnering with them, right? You may want to try to offer things that complement each other. And vice versa, knowing where your patrons go afterwards. Are they all going home or are they going somewhere else? So I thought it was very valuable. We had, I think, 3 possibly 4 businesses that have kind of already signed up for that and are starting to work with Retail Coach one-on-one to pull their data and to kind of discover what's going on. So we're excited about it, and I wanted to bring that programs to the Economic Development Committee so that you guys know what's going on, can provide us feedback on that program, as well as disperse the information of the program out to your friends, family, and businesses that are in the city. It's my goal that we would get as many businesses signed up for that service as possible. I think the only thing working against us is just not getting the word out. I think if a business sees that presentation, if they're able to see the services that they can utilize for free, I don't see any reason they wouldn't want to utilize that. My problem is if they don't know about the program, obviously they don't know about it and can't utilize it. So anything you all can do to get the word out there, I would really appreciate it.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Warsinski. Let me ask the body, are there any questions or observations that you have with regard to the presentation just made by city staff? Any questions or observations? Mr. Benecki, I see you had taken yourself off mute. Did you have any questions, sir?
I never put myself on mute.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I definitely didn't want to jump over you, sir. I want to make sure we did. Ms.
No, I
Rader,
I appreciate that, and this information is pretty cutting edge in its development, and it's going to take time, I think, for a lot of businesses to realize how this might be able to benefit them. But I think as more and more businesses utilize this equipment, the data, and the actual product that's there, the word will spread through Chamber of Commerce, through word of mouth. And I think in the long run, this will be very beneficial. And I'm kind of excited about it. We need to keep tabs on it to make sure that it's fulfilling its end objective. But I think in the end, it probably will. So I'm very positive on it.
fantastic. Any other questions or observations from the body? Questions or observations? Questions or observations? Hearing none at this time, we will again defer back to Mr. Warsinski for a review of our economic development strategic plan.
Thank you, Chair Lawson. I'm going to go ahead and try to share my screen and apologize in advance if it doesn't go well. So a lot of times it works, and then other times it does not work. So let's see how we go here. Can everyone see that?
Perfect.
Yeah.
See, I figured it out. I'm not too crazy. All right, perfect. So I also sent all of you this, and I expect that you read through all 90 pages, right? In your leisure?
88 pages.
There you go. 88 pages. Yeah, if you remove the cover page and so forth. So I appreciate that, Member Benecki. So what I'll do is I'm going to go through this quite quickly because we're not going to touch on every single page in here. I did want you all to have this work product in advance of the meeting so that you could review it and formulate questions or provide input on it. Coincidentally, the Economic Development Committee was actually formed to work on this plan. That was one of the major tasks and responsibilities of the Economic Development Committee, was to be a driving force on the development of the strategic plan. The city council as well as staff thought it was time that the city of Beaumont develop a strategic plan when it came to economic development efforts, and have something in writing that we could really guide staff's efforts and create policies and a vision for what we wanted Beaumont to be in the future. So with that said, we did not do this in a vacuum or a void within City Hall. We created a summit meeting process, and we invited many high-ranking officials from other agencies, education establishments, what else? The hospital district, And you can read through there and you can see the different affiliations and the participants that work collectively on the work product contained in here. The city of Beaumont did hire a consultant to do much of the heavy lifting when it came to data collection and coming up with the different concepts. But without the participation of all of these various people that worked really hard on this, it would have still just been a staff-driven or a consultant-driven document. And what we wanted was something that we felt comfortable with, that the community really had a stake in. So we weren't missing anyone. We wanted all the collective input into this plan. So we went through a SWOT analysis in terms of where we find our area in terms of its strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. If you've ever done strategic planning, you typically start with that process, and you can see in here what those are. You can also see really where we are in terms of context, right? So reminding us where we're based at in relation to Southern California, reminding us that we all know where Beaumont is, but if you're from another state, if you're a business that's looking at locating into Southern California, Beaumont's probably not at the top of your list, right? I mean, unless you know someone that's from this area, or you're looking at other corporate businesses that have moved into this area, you may not be familiar with it. So we need to understand that I would consider that an opportunity where it's definitely not a strength, right? We're not the city of Ontario, which is a logistics powerhouse. We're not Riverside, that has University of California, Cal Baptist, and a lot of tech and synergy going on there. We are in the Pass area. We're kind of between two major metro areas, if you will. So we need to really understand kind of where we're at. The vision statement that was created and approved by the city council is so forth, where we strive to create a balanced, sustainable, diverse economic environment by leveraging existing local businesses, recruiting targeted industries, and encouraging outside investment that will enhance Beaumont's quality of life and support community values. And the way we work to achieve that vision is through these 8 goals. 1, develop an economically balanced community. 2, recruit new businesses while also retaining and expanding local business that promote growth of primary jobs and/or sales tax revenue. 3, develop an economic development presence to provide business owners and site selectors resources they need. 4, create a quality of place that establishes Beaumont as a community to build and grow a business, as well as attract and retain talent. Connect with and assist local small business startups and entrepreneurs. Ongoing review of our development process and identify streamlining and efficiency techniques. Work with our local regional workforce development partners to provide needed resources to the area. Begin to develop a retraining program for people and positions under the threat of automation. And then lastly, leverage the city's strengths to maximize business opportunities. Does anyone have any questions on kind of my precursor to the actual plan?
That's good.
Right. Seeing none, I'm going to continue. So I'll go ahead and skip over the executive summary, which kind of highlights or details the concepts that I was just talking about. So I'm going to get through this because it's actually in another place back there. I'm going to save us some time and not really highlight the background of the data that was collected and the technical studies that were performed, because we could spend quite some time going over that stuff. And what I want, so you can see by me clicking through it all that the work product contained within this report was not just on a napkin, right? We did a lot of data collection, a lot of analysis to determine where we were at and what we could be doing. Those are job counts, real estate market forecast. This one's somewhat important, and it dovetails with the work that we're doing with the retail coach now. We looked at our city and projected out to 2035 real estate demand projections. So if you're a business owner, you have your growth projections. Cities look at it a little bit differently in terms of population forecasts. But what we decided to do is look, as our city, as our trade area increases, what new square footage of retail and service, what square footage of job centers or businesses that create local jobs for people is going to come online, or will there be demand for within that 17 years, if you will? So you can see in this that there's about 1 million square foot of retail demand for that time period through 2035. Office, as you can probably imagine, is much lower than you'd think. I mean, only 238,000 square feet of office. That if we were to do that same study today, as we're all learning how to work from home, and businesses have successfully navigated their employees working from home from quite some time, that number is probably going to be honestly lower than that 238. And you can also see the glaring demand for industrial or business park square footage. So, and as you can imagine, the reason that offices are so low is because there's current office vacancies to the west of Beaumont. So there's current office vacancies in Ontario, San Bernardino, Riverside. So it really doesn't behoove a developer to come out and build new square footage in Beaumont when there's existing opportunities at a fair market price nearby. So that's why the numbers are a little bit lower for office than the other sectors. So getting on to the action plan. So really the meat of everything. So the previous 50 slides goes into the methodology of creating this action plan and the work that was done to actually come up with it. But we created an action plan that has 13 strategy groups. And here's the hierarchy of the groups. So the bottom, when you go into these hierarchy charts, is obviously your foundational aspects, right? If you don't solidify these foundational aspects at the bottom, which is fiscal health of the city, placemaking, quality of life, infrastructure development, and workforce development, if you don't have that foundation built, it's really hard to start working on the other ones. If we don't have the workforce for people in the area, then what's the use of attracting a new business when they're not going to have employees that can actually work there? So you can see why the hierarchy is put in place. Streamlining, next, real estate development. Then you start getting into working with existing businesses to keep them here as well as help them expand. Working to build on startup businesses or entrepreneurship, and then industry targeting. And then lastly, once you've worked on those, you can start your marketing campaign. So I said there was 13 strategy groups, and they have different action items. And you can see in here the different departments. Can you guys see my cursor?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to kind of use that as a stylus, if you will. So you can see the action items. You can see the department at the city, which serves as the lead department on that. And you'll also see partner agencies and agencies that we coordinate with. And then last of all, least on the right side is the economic development strategic plan laid out a large number of hours in terms of work. So city council had to prioritize which things they wanted to see done first, second, and third. So you'll see that with a high priority role, medium, and low. And by no means is anything that's on the low priority means that it's not important. They just had to go ahead and dedicate resources that the city has in terms of fulfilling those. So the first one is the organization and the operations of the actual plan. So most of that work, if not all of that work, has been completed at this point in time. We move into marketing, which is the next high priority. And we won't have enough time to go through every single one of these, but what you can see is that it's a very strategic marketing process that isn't as simple as Beaumont's the place to be, right? It uses data, it uses community sentiment, and focuses our efforts for marketing on some of the action groups that come to follow, specifically industry targeting for retail and local serving, as well as employer bases. So existing business retention and expansion, in my profession known as BRE, something that is quite often put on the sideline when it comes to economic development functions. It's really fun to go out there and get all of you an In-N-Out burger and a Raising Cane's in a movie theater, right? It's super fun for me. When I teach at the high school, I ask the kids, how often do you believe that Kyle at the city of Beaumont is successful in bringing in new businesses? And they guess like 50% of the time, and which makes me laugh because that would be outright amazing if that happened. And I tell them it's more like less than 1 out of 10. So less than 10% of the time, we're getting an actual business that we go out on. It's probably closer to 5% because of all the different discussions that we have on projects and all the variables that come into play in terms of how to make a project go together. And you'll hear me talk about those things at future meetings when we get into business attraction and site selection. But why I mention that is that's the fun stuff, right? That's the thing that gets people excited. That's what most people call the city about what's coming next. I find that there needs to be a dedicated effort to keep the existing businesses in the city there and viable and help them expand. One of the reasons for that is they're already here. So spending a tremendous amount of time trying to bring in people that I just said 5% of them might come to Beaumont, while we're spending zero time focusing on the businesses and the employees that are currently here, I just don't believe in that. So there's a concerted effort contained in the plan on what to do with our existing businesses. It contains business outreach, linking them up with our other agencies in terms of business plans, business counseling, business growth, working with them on workforce development. If they need specific training, we would go to our educator partners and at higher learning institutions, community colleges, and our workforce partners at the county in order to create training programs to get people ready for these businesses that need new people for new jobs. So you can see contained in here the different aspects of retention and expansion. It's really going out there trying to figure out what is going on in the city, what needs they have, and how we can link up support programs and services to meet their needs. As we go on, we see industry targeting for local serving. That's the fun one, right? That's the business attraction. And you can see the next one's industry targeting for employers. A really critical role for cities in our makeup, in our location, is to find people jobs. I think when we went through this, and it may come as no surprise to the committee members, but most of our residents don't work in the city of Beaumont, right? They commute out. We're a commuter city. But that doesn't make that okay. We would love to be able to bring in new employers for those people to stop driving on the 91 freeway 2-3 hours a day. I have a term where if I can create a local job for someone and get them to drive 10 minutes to work that just saved them 2 hours with their family every single day. And there's really not a price on that. At least in my opinion, 2 hours with your family is way more important than a couple dollars extra an hour at a job that far away. So we really have a concerted effort on bringing in employers. You'll see within the plan, we have certain industry targets that we're focusing on, which is tech-related businesses, e-commerce fulfillment centers, and medical facilities. So bringing in businesses like Amazon, bringing in medical facilities with doctors and nurses, trying to attract technology businesses that have high tech and good paying jobs to the city, or all employer bases that we're looking at attracting. Entrepreneur development in terms of the roles with that. A lot of that is done with our partners at the county, the other economic development agencies that are regionally based, and some of the small business development centers that are working within this area. So real estate development, to committee member Beneke, this is familiar to you because you see these types of projects coming through when you were on the planning commission, but it's trying to encourage investment into the city. And it's citywide. Why we would love to continue working on 2nd Street. That area will be built out sometime in the future. So we need to look at redeveloping downtown. Can we start working on projects at Oak Valley Parkway? What's going to happen with the 300 acres north of State Route 60, south of Oak Valley Parkway, across from Olivewood, right? Those are the development opportunities that we have. And how do we coordinate our efforts at City Hall with the developers and the landowners out there to get those things working? So development streamlining, something that's done internally, looking at our current processes through planning, public works, building and safety, and so forth, and investigating options to expedite approvals or just to simply streamline the process. If we review it often enough, we may find things that we intended to work great that just are not working as intended. And if we never look at it, we'll never find those items that we can enhance and streamline with the goal of getting people their new pool as fast as possible, making sure it's also safe.
Kyle?
Yes.
I have a question here real quick on that chart where it's talking about, it talks about focused incentives. Let's see, where was it? Was it that the other? I just wanted to know if you have an example of what a focused incentive might look like.
Let's see here. Oh, create and market incentives for redevelopment. Yep, that's it right there under C. Sorry, I highlighted everything.
Oh, that's tenant focus. No, it was a general statement about focused incentives for existing businesses, I believe. And I'm just wondering what that looks like. I mean, that's an interesting word. I really haven't heard it before, but.
Yeah, so what we would, in that scenario, is we would start coming up with different types of incentives to bring in businesses, or for this one to help them redevelop or revitalize an older property. Some of them would not be financial incentives. And as you know, ever since the city lost the redevelopment agency concept, financial incentives are much harder for cities to offer these days. So what we do offer are permit processing, expedited entitlements, those types of things. Those are the concepts. So we don't currently have those incentives in place today. But the strategic plan said, hey, let's look at those types of things. Let's discuss the different options that are available with hopes that maybe we can come up with those types of things.
Yeah, I think there's there are some opportunities there with some, what I like to call creative financing through tax rebates and or tax deferrals, different kinds of tools that could be used in particular situations, not all the time, obviously, but yeah, if we could, take a look at those down the road, I'm not saying right now, but down the road, I think it would benefit the city, and it would benefit in the retainment of businesses and also in the recruitment of businesses. So,
Sure. So then we move on to city fiscal interface and infrastructure development coordination. So we touched on that earlier, that infrastructure is one of those foundational aspects, right? Well, if we need a business and they're interested in coming into an area, but it's on a dirt road, what's the viability of that project? Probably nothing. So we want to build things in advance of development and offer that as an incentive, if you will, or an amenity for those businesses to see and realize when they build their building and they open their store. No one wants to open a building and immediately see the city tear up that street right in front of it and be under construction for 6 months, and then have all that businesses open during construction signs. Sometimes it happens, but ideally we would like to alleviate that by coordinating the types of businesses that are coming in with the capital improvements that the Public Works Department puts together and presents to City Council. Workforce development, we touched on that earlier. Realistically, most of this work is done through my counterparts in different areas of the county that specialize in workforce development, which is our higher learning establishments, the school district locally, Riverside County, economic development. Or Rob, I'm gonna struggle with that for a while and call you guys your old name instead of business and community services. So you're gonna have to forgive me on that one. But
that's all right.
I believe that although the name has changed, your services have not, and they remain similar and the same. So Riverside County does a tremendous job with their workforce investment board on prepping people within this area for new emerging technology and just getting them jobs in general. So a lot of this is done with our counterparts and outside agencies. Placemaking. So I've talked about this a little bit in the past, and for you all that are new, the reason that economic development folks like me focus on placemaking is it's associated with workforce or people that have jobs or need jobs. And the reason I say that is it's no news that the baby boomer generation has been leaving the workforce and happily retiring the last 2 or 3 years, right? And it may have been before that, but a majority of them have kind of hit that retirement age and are choosing to retire in the last 2 or 3 years. Those numbers only get worse, and by worse, not worse for them, worse for the businesses that they used to work for. So by that large population and that age group leaving the workforce, it leaves a void. There were not enough people born that are hitting 18 or 21 that can enter the workplace to replace the baby boomers that are retiring. There's a lot of studies that are performed on that. There's absolutely no way we can fix that right now, because if we all went out and started having kids today, that solves that problem 18 years from now. So there's really no way to fix that problem, but we also, or at least I choose not to ignore it. So how do we fix that at a local level? By placemaking. If I can convince those younger generations to move to Beaumont, well, then we have jobs, or we have people to fulfill jobs locally. It's going to detract from other areas that they move from and leave a void there. So I'll have to be a little bit selfish in terms of our placemaking efforts here to try to make Beaumont the place that we want people to move to. so that when an employer comes to the city and they ask, well, Kyle, what's your workforce numbers look like here? Are you going to have people that can work at my place? We can happily say yes. If we don't focus on placemaking now, we may find ourselves deficient on employees for businesses that want to move here. And as you can imagine, if that occurs, then they may not move here and go to a place where there are workers. And quality of life ties in directly with placemaking. You know better than most, as most of you are residents within Beaumont. There's a reason that you chose to reside in the city of Beaumont, and I've never really met someone that is super happy about living in a place that doesn't have a high quality of life. They may know it internally, but they don't really boast about it, right? And what we want to do is create quality of life enhancements and that sense of place where you all feel comfortable living, you feel safe living here, safe shopping at businesses, and hopefully that mentality goes out to other people as well, and they choose to move here. So if you want more information on those strategy groups and action items that I went forward with, you can find it in this next summary column. Almost the same thing. It kind of just talks. This one I tied in with those goals at the beginning. So you can track back these individual action items, the priority, and the goals that each of these work towards accomplishing. So this one's a fun one. This shows you, if you ever want to know where people are coming and where they're going, you can always use this thing. We did it back then, where you can see the inflow outflow counts for all workers. So you have 4,000 people that come into the city of Beaumont to work, and you have 13,950 that leave the city to go to work, and you have 1,300 that live in the city and work in the city. That's what I was talking about when we said that we're a commuter city. We have people that are leaving, which is why we focus on job creation in the city as much as we do. And you can actually, if you're ever interested, you can always bug me and I can pull you where they're actually going. It's kind of fun to see where people go to work. Here's a snapshot of it. So most people are going to San Bernardino, Beaumont, and then you can see the slew of people. But as you can see, like Irvine right here, right? There's around, what is that? Close to 100 people, maybe even over 100 people that live in Beaumont, California and work in Irvine. I wouldn't want to make that drive. So if we could try to bring those businesses here, or have them open an office or whatever it is here, then that saves those people hours on that freeway every day. So having that data kind of allows us to kind of work towards our goals in terms of job creation.
Kyle, that's an interesting data set that I think you and I have talked about in the past. And there was that big bar of people working at the city of San Bernardino, and we were trying to figure out if that was county government or school districts or whatever. It's just always, I think it's a data junkie's interest, for us to figure out who, what, where.
It is. It's fun to look at. Todd and I geek out when we look at data sets like that. Rob, you probably could join us on those sessions. I remember drilling into that San Bernardino data and saying, well, why are all these people working in San Bernardino and what kind of jobs are they? And not only do a lot of people work in San Bernardino, they make a pretty good wage working in San Bernardino. So it told me that they're in some high earning positions over in that area, which is exactly why they're going there, right? I mean, they're going there because they have a pretty good job there. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but I do know they're in the higher earnings sector, which kind of makes sense. So that concludes the report in terms of running through all of those within a quick period of time. I was trying to do it a little bit faster than that, but I did want to go into some level of detail on the strategic plans so that you all kind of got an idea of kind of what it is, the work that was put into it, and really understand what we at City Hall are doing to try to fulfill that vision and achieve those goals that are laid out in that plan.
Thank you, Mr.
Chairman,
Warsinski.
I'll stop and answer any questions that you all may have.
I was going to open up and ask the body, but one observation I wanted to make also, outstanding presentation. That's number one. Number two, it looks like there is a lot of good work here that we have an opportunity as your Economic Development Committee to support you in, and to take on whatever task you all might deem necessary for us to provide good information and good input into our community leadership. But this is an absolutely outstanding plan. I had a chance to look over it when you had sent it, but this is really, really phenomenal. So thank you. Let me open up to our body. Are there any questions or observations that you all might have for Mr. Warsinski or his team with regard to the information? I know it's a lot to digest, and I hope that everybody will go back over it and look through some things and highlight some thoughts and ideas and questions you have for future meetings. But are there any questions or observations?
This is the first that I got to see it.
I had a hand there from Councilman Finn first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And then, of course, Mr. Vince, and then I'll recognize Miss Samuel, I believe it is, Miss Samuel at the third. So Councilman Finn, please.
Thank you, appreciate it. Just my 2 cents on where the people are coming from that work in San Bernardino. Having been a real estate agent in Beaumont and living here for 17 years, it is a good mix. It's county workers, medical, like nurses and so forth. And we do have a lot of teachers that live in town. So it's hard to just, pick one particular segment, but, it's a county hub, and, government jobs in some cases pay well. And so it makes it affordable for them to live here, and it's just down the hill. So it's kind of nice. Maybe hard to cherry pick and advertise in San Bernardino because they're going to want to keep their people there. But it certainly puts a focus on that for us. This might lead into the next agenda topic, but Kyle, what are your thoughts on what this committee can do to move this plan forward? So the plan's there, and I see that staff is going to be doing a lot of work on implementing it, but what do we do to help make that happen?
Yeah, Councilmember Finn, we will be talking about that on the next agenda item. So in order not to mess up my thoughts on that one, I'd like to defer that to the next item.
That works. Thank you.
With that, let me recognize Member Vince, please.
Yes, this is the first that I saw this. I never got it emailed to me, so.
Well, we'll make sure, I'll ask Ms. Wilwright if she'll make sure that you get a copy of that, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. And then, of course, Member Samuel, you're muted. There you go.
Hi, I was just going to sit there and say that I was one of those government employees living in the area and driving to Long Beach every day. And I understand a lot of people wouldn't do it, but you do what you have to do when you have to do it. So for those who don't have to drive 100 miles to work, good. And those who do, guess what? We're doing it. But I'm no longer doing it, I'm retired. But however, that's what's being done. Also, the shopping dollars goes out because of what's around here. As far as, can I say, Louis Vuitton shops. So you have a lot of people that live here who shop Louis, along with your younger generation, which is not here except at Cabazon. So a lot of your dollars go out to Ontario, Palm Springs, yes, the OC area, which houses those high quality luxury places, which are also attached to younger people sometimes. So you're trying to pull in business high. It's kind of like you want luxury to come to the area. However, there's not the economy to pull that luxury here. And the economy that is here and the people that are here that want what they want here is because I spend a lot of time on neighborhood. A lot of time is a lot of the people here that's been here a long time and that does not want any change to come here. So I've been out talking to a lot of people and businesses and things trying to get a little bit more input of some high tech, as you say, companies that come in here are people to stay. It's kind of hard because you have a retirement community and you're trying to bring in a younger community and younger businesses, and some of the money that is passing by in some of the areas, huge areas, which Kyle and that marketing company has done such a tremendous job of pointing out. And that's the reason, a lot of reasons why. Me personally, I shop out because it's not a place that's here to shop. There's not those high quality jobs here. So to try to pull them here, you need something to attract. And really something to attract. And there is nothing to attract to Beaumont right now of that generation. Even the website, to tell you the truth, you need animation. You need things to move. You need things with color. You need, even with businesses. If you just look at them, you need things to strike people. Other than that, you don't get no attention. If you don't get grasp attention within the first 3 minutes, it's gone, in most days, so that's like, when people are driving through, they want to see things lit. They want to see things turning. They want, like to say, the downtown area that attracts, or else if you're not attracting it, it's another area attracting it. And like to say, it's money gone. Money, thousands of dollars. I can't tell you the thousands that go out, from me because of the things necessary that are not here in this area for business wise, and even with things that you want to build in this area, medical wise, is wonderful. But if you say this is a wonderful medical area and you say anything linked to anything organic, we have wonderful bocce courts. You are not going to get anyone other than a certain attraction of money and a certain attraction of people. So for one, Beaumont has to figure out who they really want and go for those markets. But you're going to have to go for those markets in different areas with different approaches, basically. Is what I'm saying. You can't go to something in the 2000th century with something organic. No, that's not going to work. You're going to have to go for the organic market with an organic approach, grab and seize that market, and have another group go for another group and seize that market that they can identify with, and they pretty much don't have any abrasion with, and pull that market in as well. There's multiple markets. There's tons of money, billions of money going by, it's the pass area going by. I could say the cannabis industry going by, medical cannabis going by. We got the hockey league up the street. Palm Springs coming out to be Greater Coachella, one of the biggest areas dealing with family. We can link in on that. We have businesses that if we get our businesses here in this area, going, hey, we have the hockey league coming up the road. Won't you tie into farmhouse restaurants to do something maybe in the inside of that restaurant to say, hey, we want to link something in here for the surfer. The surfing clubs is coming up, the national surfing clubs that's going up in the Palm Desert area, the National Hockey League. All those things that's going there, the amphitheaters going on in Moreno Valley, all those things. If you take those and pull those into the business, if you make Beaumont is a bridge. Beaumont and Banning is a bridge to your better. Your better what? Your better whatever you want to go to. But okay, so then All right. Well, it's a good place to reside. Okay. Well, we have people to reside, and it's a safe place to reside. You pull those things of marketing, a good marketing out to Instagramming, social thing, putting it out there, blow Beaumont up. That will help. Other than that, it's just every time I type in Beaumont, I get Texas. And every time, if I'm doing it, everybody else is doing it. So Beaumont does not exist except to the surrounding areas. That's
and Ms. Samuel, I think that what you're describing is exactly what we're trying to address, and you could tell by the different concepts that you were throwing out there, trying to bring certain markets in here, trying to bring certain stores in here is very complex and definitely not easy, right? So when I mentioned the downtown, by no means do I think our current downtown today is going to attract anyone of that age group that we need to be attracting. But what we want to do is be mindful of what we have today and work collectively with the people that operate in the downtown, that own property there, in hopes at providing something that has that draw that you're mentioning. If we never start on that type of plan, then you can imagine we're never going to get to the finish line, right? So I think that you definitely hit a lot of the different points that are contained within the plan, and kind of highlighted also the challenges that we're going to encounter as we move forward.
And then I want to speak to that a little bit also. I want to say how where we've come from in terms of a city. I've only been here since 2014. I've seen tremendous growth in Beaumont, even more opportunities than we had when I first got here. And so I think that we're making some good strides, and that's one of the major roles of this group in terms of providing good information and thoughts or input, just like you did, Member Samuel, to Mr. Warsinski and to our mayor and to our councilman and to our leadership in this city for those types of ideas. And I think we're going to have a lot of time. It was good hearing you speak, because I'll tell you what, especially as Mr. Warsinski moves into the next area, which is the overview of plan for our committees and our responsibilities as an economic development committee, those thoughts that you shared are going to go into the work that needs to be done. So as a retiree, we're going to definitely put you to work in having some input into things that can go forth. We have a beautiful city here. I'm very proud of it. And so I know that we have come a long way. I teased Mr. Warsinski the last meeting for creating a caloric intake for me over at the Raising Cane's. I don't need Raising Cane's, but then what he did was he put up a nice gym right across there from old Raising Cane's, so I can eat a couple of pieces of that bad chicken and walk right into the gym and get on a treadmill. And that's what we need. So we are growing. I'm excited that we have things like theaters coming. I'm at an age where I don't want to be that wild young person out there. I do want to be able to walk quietly along a sidewalk there and look in the window and buy a few things and keep moving. So, but these are the kind of conversations that are needed, as you said. So I believe Councilman Santos had his hand up. You wanted to make an observation, sir.
Yes, I'd just like to interject on the some of the informations I have. Just like Councilman David in here. I'm a real estate broker for over 35 years. I came from from LA to Rancho Cucamonga to Loma Linda, Redlands. Now I'm here in Beaumont for 16 years, and I stick in here. I mean, because if you look where I came from, everything grow. I mean, so I could see the growth in there. The point is, I think I have to share with you what's really going on in Beaumont. When I moved over here, we're only 11,000 to 12,000 during that period, and right now I would say we're 53,900 right now. That's without the census, official census on the data, and census have been postponed from January. We're supposed to have it, and then move to February. Now it's March 15th. So I'm excited to see that because there's a lot of questions. Some of the industry or retail, they're looking for population. And if we're on the almost 54,000 and combine it to Banning, they have 33,000. Calamasa got 9,000 in there. So we're close to 100,000 on the region itself. On the economic development, I think Carl did an excellent job on putting this number. But the thing is, we have to see the truth on this. Since 2010, Beaumont grew 18% on that. And then I know, we are on the retirement. I'm retired. Some are retired at age 46, and I'm on the 60s right now. And I'm enjoying my service to the city. I volunteer, I throw it away. I'm giving back to the city wherever I go. I mean, I give it back. I mean, if we look on the average, the median age in Beaumont is 36 years old.
Right.
So we are young. I mean, on if we look on the population of seniors on that, we are only on the 38% on the seniors. It's not really a majority, but they're the one who's bringing us up on the, when I say bringing up, is the sales tax. Look at all the members in here. I mean, this is, I would not say the future, but they're bringing us the future because they're attracting the young ones. I mean, on this. If we compare on other city, I mean, on Banning, their average, on their median is 40 years old. And on Calamasa, 47 years old. So I'm giving you, throwing that number on this. I mean, the future is so good. Now the income, I would, income on this. I deal with this every day. I mean, I move people here coming from, San Clemente, Orange County, Newport Beach, and Irvine. And I'm glad that, you're in Long Beach. I mean, I used to have properties in Long Beach. I got tenants still commute to Irvine. Luckily, that's the good thing on pandemic. They're home based now. I mean, they're happy. I got 3 of my tenants commute in Orange County. But the average, all of our employees in here that works down in there, I mean, Council, Penn, bring it out. I mean, also, the presentation in San Bernardino or up to, Ontario, they do drive only 33 minutes on this. That would be nice to have really a statistics that that was, statistics of last year. And Carl, that would be nice to have it, to find out on like Icon, Wolverine, Amazon, per county, those guys, how many people who lives in our city? That would be nice. I mean, because in Amazon, I know the most of the key people there move here in Beaumont, and some of them, I mean, some of my client on that. When I say client, their tenant, they want to see how Beaumont will behave and how we really progress on this. That's the reason I'm sharing that. I mean, remember, Cassie. I mean, that'll be that's a really good point, and that's why it triggered to me give you the statistics. Owner occupied and everything. We are 73%. I mean, renters. I mean, we got 23%. That is good. If you look on some city, they are only 52, 53 owner occupied. That's why I'm proud of Beaumont. That's why I'm sticking it in here. I could move anytime I want because I got some property out there. And that's why I'm sharing it to you now on San Bernardino or Redlands, Ontario. Their per capita or their income is coming from 80,000, watch this, up to 180,000. Those people, they choose to live with us. I just want you to know that the statistics, I'm very seldom to talk, but I'm sharing that to you right now because of the real estate side and then what's going on in Beaumont in here. And it's the nice thing in here, the future is here. I mean, the household, we are with the children is 14,600. If you multiply that by 3, that's the part of the population. Majority has kids. That's why I'm glad that Carl did all of these presentations that trigger me to share it with you on this. That's why the future here. That do you know that back in January up to May, we're the #1 growing out city in the nation. Check that out on the New York Times. They feature us on this. I haven't talked to you guys on that. So there's a pressure on us, but it's a good pressure. I think the council is proud that everybody's working together on here, and also I like to see the economic development committee go through on this. Not boom. I mean, I think there'll be a downturn within 3 to 4 years, but I think we're doing well. Congratulations, members. Thank you, Chairperson. I mean, Vaughn on this.
Yes, sir,
Okay,
Councilman.
so now,
Let me recognize Mr. Vince. Member Vince, you had your hand up, please.
Yes, yes. I just want to say one thing. I've been around here since the early 80s in this area. I remember when there was nothing on the other side of the freeway. The population was 5,900. But we've come, the current city council at that time was totally, the mayor was totally against, I'm just throwing this out there, was totally against about getting big. He wanted to keep it the small town atmosphere, but it's developed into a great community. We have a great police department, and that's the #1 benefit of any community is if you've got a proactive police department. And actually the chief is a great guy, Sean. And that's something to be proud of. That's a sell point right there is your city, is your police department. I'm excited about seeing how far it's growing. But my personal opinion is you have to watch the growth. And just like Cassie was saying, I mean, it's got to be really technical and on how you're going to grow and what you're going to have. I saw UKIPA, putting businesses out there, but they're not supported. They're not the right businesses, and they're not being supported by the community. But what I wanted to say was I am glad that I'm in Beaumont. It's a great community. It's an easy sell. The people here, we don't have the crime that you have everywhere else. And so I think it's going to be great. I think, and I'm looking forward to help, participate in the buildings, so the further building for it. So.
All right, thank you. Are there any other observations before we move on? Councilman Santos again, sir.
yeah, I just like to say you're right, Carl. I mean, on that. I mean, I really appreciate that. I just like to share the people that I move over here, past few years coming from Orange County. The first thing I ask when I do let them move over here from Laguna Niguel, from Newport Beach, Manhattan Beach, and San Clemente and San Juan Capistrano. That's a specific, that I move people over here. They're very good people moving here. The first question I ask them, why they choose Beaumont.
Yep.
You mentioned about the police. They said the crime rate is so low.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. They check from India to Ontario on that. And during that time, we're the lowest one And then the second one is the the young kids that are moving in here. Is they said we have a good school district,
Mhm.
and they check it out. They do their homework, and the only thing I could really ask, why Beaumont? So that's the answer in there. I just like to share that with you guys.
Actually, you get more bang for your buck in Beaumont.
That's true.
Absolutely. All right. But with that, Councilman Finn, please.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate the comments that were shared. When I first moved to Beaumont, it was back in 2013. There was about 16,000 people here, so it's grown quite a bit. And so I appreciate Mr. Vince's comments and Ms. Samuels as well. I have seen a change in kind of philosophy. It used to be where if you moved to Beaumont, you wanted to lock the gate behind you and not let anybody else in. Now it's, hey, I'm here, what is there to do in town and so forth. So I think the demand for things to do for young families, wholesome recreation, that sort of thing is a big shift and a big demand coming our way. And COVID changed a whole lot. And with technology in place, I think every child now has a laptop, and more people are working from home, which then makes Beaumont even more affordable. I've often said in my career that Beaumont is the edge of affordability, in that people tend to migrate eastward. As a kid, I started off in Bellflower and Whittier, then to Hacienda Heights, then to Norco, then to Riverside, then to Moreno Valley, then the military, and then now in Beaumont. So that's as far as east as I want to go. People from Moreno Valley don't go through the Badlands and come this direction. They think that the Badlands just is an invisible dividing line. But I see a lot of people coming off the 10 corridor from Rancho Cucamonga to Redlands and coming this way. People don't want to live in the lower desert. It's too hot, and so forth. And we have the advantage over Banning for our school districts. But Banning is going to pull in a lot of people in that Atwell neighborhood because it's Beaumont school district. And then that's just going to feed the demand of services and so forth. I like the idea of redoing Stewart Park, to kind of make it a hub, and so forth. And if we can get some businesses, around that, for people to do things, I think it'd be great. I have 4 young adult men at home that are my sons. They range from, come next month, they'll be from 21 to 27. And I see them spending money here in town, and so forth. So the more that we can do that, it's going to catch that younger generation. In terms of a population segment, the unfortunate factor is the baby boomers are aging out and dying off. I'm in Generation X. I'm the smaller group, but then millennials are right behind that, and they're the ones having all the kids, and that's a bigger generation than mine. And so if we can keep catering to them, that's, I think, as Cassie is pointing out, is going to be the future of Beaumont. And I mean, who's going to go to Orange County and pay twice as much and try to raise their kids there? It's just not financially feasible. So they come out this direction. And if they can work from home, now the commuting factor is gone, for many of them. And I think that's going to then just put even a larger demand on housing for Beaumont. And I don't know if the builders can even build them fast enough. And some of the mistakes that the builders have made in the past is not build enough homes. Back in 2003 to 2005, they were releasing 30 to 35 homes at a time through a phase release. And ever since the crash, they only do 5 to 10. And so they can't seem to keep up, but they're cautious, and I understand it. But I think we're going to explode and hit 100,000 in Beaumont before we know it. And so just some food for thought. I thought I'd share. So thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Any other comments before we move to our next item?
Hey, Bon, I do have a quick comment. If I read that report properly, it seemed like the perception was, since we're kind of considered a senior community area, that was kind of a negative regarding, I imagine, per capita income, or because most senior citizens, and now I'm newly retired, so I'm on a more fixed income. But the thing I've noticed is, I don't know why that's perceived as a negative, because most of my neighbors where I'm at are driving big RVs. They've got Mercedes, Lexuses, and they have a good, healthy retirement fund. They pay cash for their homes. And the problem is, me and my neighbors, if we want to go out for fine dining, we go to Palm Springs or we go to Redlands or someplace. I mean, there's some nice places here, obviously, but we do a lot of driving out. So there's a lot of leakage of income going out for all the senior citizens. And I don't know how we turn around that perception that even though you're retired and living in a retirement community, that you don't have disposable income. You can ask Al, he has lots. So
yeah, Dave, I think that I'm glad you found that in there and you brought it up, because I remember when that discussion was taking place and it wasn't rooted in actual data. It was the stakeholders, those 50 or 60 people that had brought it up. They'd mentioned that, well, if Beaumont's a senior community, like heavily slanted towards retirees, that could be a perceived negative for employers because the seniors aren't in the working population, or they don't spend money at the same levels as others. And while I didn't necessarily, and I still don't agree with those aspects, because it was brought up and because it was brought up multiple times, is why it goes in the plan, because we don't want to discount any of the discussion that took place. What I can say is, and it touches on your comments, and it also dovetails with what Councilmember Santos is talking about, is our new contract with the retail consultant. We've been pulling new data sets, and a lot of it corroborates exactly what Councilmember Santos is talking about. Our age group, so factor in our average age within Beaumont is like 32 or 33. Is that a senior community like Dave found in our strategic plan report? No, it's almost the opposite of that, right? So then we're also able to look at different psychographic profiles of the different people in Beaumont. So there's different, and Esri does it. They group them into these groups, and they have funky names for them. I don't know if I necessarily agree with the names, but what they do is they put like people that have the similar lifestyle, similar age, similar spending patterns in certain groups, and we're able to take those and move forward with them. So we may have a different type of demographic for our active adult or senior population in Beaumont versus another area that is of similar age but not lifestyle and not spending patterns. So we're going to be trying to look at that data and more clarity on that for us.
Fantastic. Let's take one more comment from Councilman. I see Fence, and let's move on, because just like y'all know I'm Oklahoma boys. Like my late pastor used to say, reason they chopped the Bible up into so many scriptures, you can't preach it all in one Sunday. So we have some great ideas here. We're going to work together and bring them together over this next year. So Councilman Finn, you'll have the last word here, and we'll move on to Mr. Warsinski for item 4, which is to know what our roles and responsibilities will be.
Sure, appreciate that. And I just think it's kind of a lead in then into that next topic, is then maybe that be our focus, is to advertise towards that younger crowd, because that's who's coming. And as more homes are being developed, it will water down the senior neighbors that we have. Also too, I notice aging within those senior neighborhoods. For example, Sun Lakes has a much older group of seniors in Banning than we do in Four Seasons and Solera. And in Altus, I'm not sure on that one, it's still being developed and so forth, but Altus is the most expensive of all of them. And as Dave points out, that's bringing money into the area, and so forth. So anyway, I'll defer to the next topic.
All right. We'll move on. Mr. Warsinski is going to lead us in a discussion on overview of plan for committee, responsibilities, and duties.
Thank you, Chairman. So what we wanted to do is first go over the EDSP, which sets forth the framework, the goals and the vision of City Council, to go over kind of what my job is in terms of working to achieve those goals, and then dovetail that into what the EDC is all about. So the formation of the EDC was twofold. It was to work on that document, help comprise that document, and over time, we're going to be reviewing it and updating it, which will be a critical role of the EDC moving forward, is updating that when the time comes. For example, like if we determine that we want to seek out employers for technology, but over the last 10 years, there's been no investment of technology in this area because it all went into Riverside. Well, maybe we need to look closely at what we have and focus on either fixing why that's not occurring or pivoting and moving towards another market sector. So that's just an example of what could happen when we start looking at it. But the secondary role, and I would consider more important than completing the plan, because once the plan's completed, that thing's kind of done and we're moving forward, is the EDC serves as an advisory committee to the city council of the city of Beaumont. And what that means is that during these meetings, much like Carl and Dave and Cassie has provided, the input from the community that I'm never going to get in City Hall, right? What you'll do is when we put together presentations like the EDSP or like the item we discussed last month, which was that strategic parking study, we need your public involvement to our roles at the city to tell us what's going on, what your feelings are on those. Talk to all of your neighbors, your friends, family, businesses that you may own or businesses that you know of, business owners, and provide that feedback to us on items that are going on within the city. So we'll often bring you guys things that are going on. Also things that are going on in Riverside County. And we really need your feedback to staff, which ends up going to city council on really the feel of the community. So one thing I wanted to mention as we move forward and we consider programs and you may come up with ideas to present to the city council or provide feedback to the committee, is all of our efforts here at the Economic Development Committee should, one, match and mesh with that strategic plan document, because as we serve as staff, as we serve on the committee on behalf of the city council, that's their document. That's their guiding document. That's their strategy on what they'd like to see achieved through that vision. They're the ones that set the policy. We provide recommendations and we provide feedback on the policies that they establish. So everything that we do here should touch back with that strategic plan document and also work in concert with the existing policies and programs that the city council has in place. So one good example, and Cassie had brought it up today in your discussion, was the discussion of marijuana, right? So we know that the state of California has legalized recreational marijuana in the city or in the state, both for recreational as well as medicinal uses. But our city council has a policy that we are not encouraging cultivation. We are not encouraging sale on a medicinal or recreational level within our city borders. It's something that they have set a policy on that we're just not interested seeing it here. And they have their own reasons for that. And while other cities and areas around us may feel differently, our marching orders is to go along with what our city council has put in place. So that's kind of an example, and you had brought it up, so it refreshed my memory on that one. So really, I find advisory committees to be one of the most important functions that committees have. Sometimes they're put in place for a specific project, and then they serve in an advisory role afterwards. And I think this is one of those scenarios. You can see that in the makeup of the committee members. We have economic development professionals like Rob on here. We have council members. We have the Chamber of Commerce. We have higher learning. Unfortunately, Beaumont Unified isn't here today, but we also have community members, right? We have residents that just live here. And then we have people that may own a business here and live elsewhere, or may live here and own a business elsewhere. And that was set up strategically by council in order to have advice and guidance from a wide array of individuals. And you all, I'm happy to say, represent those positions that the city council put in there. So your feedback on future projects, on things that we bring to you, is really the critical role that the EDC should take place in. Vaughn, do you want to add anything to that in terms of the roles of the EDC committee?
Absolutely. As I had spoke with you all before, Mr. Warsinski, you and Mr. Pardon, I think essential. One of the things I learned just in being in this right at about a year is the idea of how important it is for us as stakeholders from across the spectrum to have or to support our leaders, our mayor, our councilman, and our leaders in this city. I think that's essential. And I think it's important that we realize the role that an advisory committee plays. Not that we make policy, not that we drive policy, but that we provide good information and wise counsel. Coming from a higher education setting, I serve on a number of committees and work groups that are responsible for providing my president or any of our board of trustees, which many of you are familiar with, are the folks that serve Mount San Jacinto College. We're responsible for providing them good data, good information, good feedback from our communities so that they can make good decisions. And I think that is our role here, and it's essential that we do that. I think it's also essential, and I don't see it otherwise, but I think it's essential that we do so with a certain decorum and protocol that would be due the positions that we carry. I'm a Southern boy. I can't change that, and you'll never take that out of me. So I've always believed in protocol. I shared that with Mr. Warsinski when we were talking about the responsibilities that I would have. I said, well, I'm going to do it with decorum, and I'm going to do it the way it's supposed to be done, or we're just not going to do it at all. And that's just the way I believe. We represent Beaumont, and if I'm going to live here and serve on this committee, I'm going to represent it the way it should be done. I have valued the opportunity to serve on this committee for the last year. I've met some wonderful people like Mr. Santos and Miss Rader, and missing her hug something fierce. She knows that. But also it's encouraged me more. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I miss it. I'll tell you what. It has encouraged me more in supporting our businesses, like Mr. Ahmed's business. I take all my business to him and his team of outstanding mechanics. It has helped us to grow closer together, and I think that's essential. And I agree with Ms. Samuel. I know there's a lot we have to do for some of our young people. I'm not as young, like I said, as I used to be, Ms. Samuel. So I don't need to kick my feet up as high as some of these young folks do. But we do want things for them so they can have some fun and young families that have places to go. But we want to do it, of course, in the right way and work together and support our leaders. And I think that is essential, that when Councilman Finn and Councilman Santos go back to the larger body, they can say we have great representation. We have great advisory members who provide us good information and do so. One of the things I would like to recommend to this body, if you all don't mind, I don't think we take this action this evening, but even as we look at our topics for future agendas, that we go back to that brilliant document that Mr. Warsinski presented and look for some of those areas that we should be focused on, those high priority areas. And I know that Mr. Warsinski and his team will share with us those things that they would like to prioritize. And we can begin to identify topics that we should be working on. The other thing I know that Mr. Warsinski and his team will do is to begin to identify some work groups that we should be stepping onto and giving of our time, whether it's 1 or 2 hours a month, to begin work on, and then to have some deadlines with objectives that we should be able to present to our leadership. Again, so when Councilman Finn and Councilman Santos go into those larger meetings, they can carry those types of suggestions and ideas with them. So I'm going to shut up now because I know it's getting late. Some of y'all have got that supper look on your face. But back to Mr. Warsinski. Let me ask this of the body if I could. Are there any questions you have with regard to our responsibilities and duties? I think we should be clear on that. All minds should be clear. Are there any questions that we serve in an advisory committee? We don't make policy. We don't drive policy. We actually provide good, wise counsel to all of our city leaders. All right. With that, then, I'm going to move on, Mr. Warsinski, if you'll permit me, to topics for future agendas. Is there anything on this list that you all would like to have a discussion with in our coming meetings, and with the idea that we are going to refresh that list as Mr. Warsinski had mentioned? Cannabis is not something we would even discuss in this area right now, so there's no need for it to continue to be on the list. Been there, I think, over. Yes, sir. Mr. Allen.
You took the words out of my mouth. I'd say, why don't we just remove it from the future agenda?
Yes, and then we'll bring a larger list. If you'll permit me, as the person you've chosen to be in this position, I will work with Mr. Warsinski and Mr. Pardon to identify a larger list that we can consider for your vote and approval, and we'll move forward on that item and bring you something at the next meeting. Mr. Ahmed, you had an observation, sir.
Yeah, as you work on fine-tuning that list to Kyle, I have an idea going back to the demographic conversation.
Yes, sir.
And changes in the business environment, such as, SAP just announced that they don't expect their employees to come back to the 9 to 5 anymore. Google already announced it a number of years ago. So the demographics and the information, these are just information unless we are able to position ourselves to take advantage of those in a good way, right? So I would be interested in hearing what ideas we may be able to bring to the council, to the city leadership, on positioning ourselves to take advantage of those changing environment in businesses, as well as in college graduates that's coming out and fresh and so forth. So,
yes, sir. And I agree with you, and I think that strategic plan is going to drive a lot of that discussion, because many of those items, as you read down through there, they've been well thought out. I mean, it's essential to say, here's where we need to look at workforce development. Here's where we need to look at bringing business to community and tech. I mean, it really is really well thought out. So that will help in that discussion, I believe.
Exactly. We have a pretty good slate of things that we're going to be presenting to EDC, at least at next month. The County of Riverside is going to be presenting on the different programs, activities they're currently working on. And then I'm hopeful, although don't hold me to it, because I'm not exactly sure if it's going to be complete, but I'm trying to get our demographics and psychographics and some of that stuff completed. Most of it's done, but we're still waiting on retail demand growth and some leakage and some target industry. I wanted to bring that to the committee itself, and then whatever discussion that stems from that, maybe it is exactly what Committee Member Ahmed was talking about, right? Well, we see what we have here, but how do we jive that data set with the components of the strategic plan? How do we get to that next step? And I think that's the feedback from the community that you all represent that is so valuable to me at the staff level and to the city council members that sit on the committee. and also the council members that don't sit on this committee. They value that input as well, and that citizen participation that you all provide is going to be key in terms of moving forward.
All right. With that, again, are there any of the topics there that you'd like to cover? If not, we can move on to reports. Instead of calling everyone's name as we've done in the past, I'm going to ask, do any of you members have anything that you would like to present in the way of a report?
I have an item.
Yes, sir, Mr. Manecki.
I have an item of information. The LPGA Symetra Tour, which has been in our community for 6 years running, will be coming in March this year again for the 7th year. It's going to be on the week of March 22nd. That's Monday is 22nd, but it's going to be on the Friday, Saturday, Sunday of that week. So same protocols will be held as were held last year with regards to the COVID issues, but this is a program that the city is kind of starting to embrace. We were hit with the pandemic. We had some great ideas for last year. We had to shut them down because of the pandemic thing, but we're continuing with this project because there's a lot of exposure for the city of Beaumont through this program. We get actually international players coming here from around the world, and city of Beaumont is publicized in the media when the scores are shown of the players and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of a fun thing for the city of Beaumont. Not too many cities can say we have this kind of activity in our community. And it's just one thing that brings people to the community. So when we're thinking about economic development, we want to bring money to the community. So there are activities and things that we may be able to do in the future where people will be coming to our community and spending their money here. So anyway, I wanted to give you an FYI on that, just for your own personal information. And hopefully we'll have some limited participation from the community. You'll be able to come out and see some very fantastic young ladies play some very, very good golf. So that's what I have to offer today.
Thank you, sir. Fantastic. Are there any other reports or announcements coming from the body?
Richard, where can you get tickets for that event?
It's free.
Oh, okay.
It's free.
Cool. Very
And
good.
you just have to show up. You know, you might have to have a temperature check or something to get in, but we'll get the information out to the community as best we can, and whatever protocols need to be followed. Last year it went very smoothly. We were not a spreader event or anything like that. It went very smoothly. I can't think of anybody that got COVID from it. But we're going to be running the same kind of event, and I'll get more further information as it gets closer to you guys out there.
It's definitely a fun event, and they are really good at golf.
Yeah, you better believe that.
All right. Fantastic. Are there any other reports or announcements that need to be made coming from the body? Hearing none, then we will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right. With that, Ms. Wheelwright, will you call the roll for adjournment?
Yes, I can do so. For future meetings, we typically do not do motions for
Oh,
the
I'm
adjournment.
so sorry.
So we can if you'd like, but
You're in charge. Just end it.
Oh, okay. With that, I am so sorry. I'm still learning on that one. With that, thank you, Ms. Wheelwright. I apologize for that action. And then what we'll do, we will adjourn. Our next meeting is going to be March the 10th. As I stated, we will bring you a list of items for future agendas, and I'll work with Mr. Warsinski and Mr. Patton to get their guidance on what's important as we're moving forward. Thank you so much. Everybody, please stay safe, be blessed, your families as well, and I look forward to seeing you next month.
Good night.
Thank you, everybody.
Chairman, indicate the time.
The time of the next meeting, sir, will be 4
No,
p.m.
the adjournment.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're closing out at 544. Thank you. I'm telling you, you can always tell those parliamentarians and politicians in the room. Thank you, Councilman Santos. Educate me, absolutely.
Councilman
I got to polish up on my Robert's Rules of Order.
Councilman Santos, I'm impressed. Your hair didn't even move once with all that wind blowing.
I don't see that. Hey, just for you, Carl.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right,
guys.
take care. Everybody stay safe, please.